Attention coaches and athletes, the boards close in 5 minutes.
Attention divers, the boards are now closed. Please meet at the staging area near the trampoline.
Do you ever stop and think about energy? How we light up our lives, how we power our communities, and where it all comes from. Think about this. At Energy Harbor, we generate enough clean energy to power nearly 4 million homes every single year, lighting up neighborhoods, empowering business, and giving you the ability to choose energy that's safe, reliable, and sustainable every time you flip the switch. Energy Harbor. Live with power.
Dive Live, now available at the Apple and the Google Store. Allows divers to enter their dive sheets, everything they need on the phone, including add video to their dive sheets. Great for recruiting. For coaches, there is no easier way to run a diving contest.
Our country roads lead to new beginnings, with new opportunities around each mountain bend. Here, we don't just pride ourselves on being the best. We commit to it, designing world-class facilities with premier resources, backed by our communities who are determined to aid in our success. Together, we'll reach new heights. We welcome you to the place where you belong.
At Energy Harbor, we generate enough clean...
Athletes, please report to the staging area. Olivia is waving her hands by the trampolines. we are ready to introduce tonight's men's 3-meter springboard finalists. Let's give it to them.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We had a little 45-minute break there, so 30 minutes. We're going to be having our men's 3-meter final. Some pretty awesome competitors we're going to see here. They're about to introduce our finalists, so we're going to kind of keep our mouths shut. And but before they do that, I am joined again by Cliff DeVries from RIT in upstate New York.
Hello, everybody.
Jacob Fielding. Diving second, Jack Ryan. Diving third, Mohammed Farouk. Diving fourth, Luke Forrester. Diving fifth, Connor Gessing. Diving sixth, Clayton Chaplin. Diving seventh, Lyle Yost. Diving eighth, Tyler Downs. Diving ninth, Carson Tyler. Diving 10th, Greg Duncan. Diving 11th, Quinn Henninger. Diving 12th, Alan Bottego. And diving 13th, your top qualifier, Andrew Capobianco. Let's hear it for him one more time.
All right, so as we get ready here, Cliff, what are you looking forward to from this men's 3-meter event?
So we're going to see some really big dives, and we're going to see some of the standard dives performed really well. The contest is going to be pretty close in a lot of areas, and there's some standard people here that we see always at nationals. Andrew Capobianco is here. Quentin Henninger had a lot of national experience. Greg Duncan, longtime diver at the national level. Tyler, of course, Olympian. So a lot of divers who have been in the sport a long time, who have a lot of experience.
Absolutely. I think it's important to point out Mohammed from Miami is our only international athlete competing this evening. And then also it looks like Luke Forrester and Connor Gessing, if I'm getting that right, are the only two junior divers. I think Connor maybe is right about that time where he's going to be getting ready to go to college, as well as Luke, but pretty incredible to have these junior divers competing with some of these, like you said, Olympians and international athletes.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see these younger divers coming up, getting experience on the senior national level, and this is where they get their experience, so that when they start diving seriously, internationally, and getting to that Olympic trial level, they've got this experience under their belt. They know how to do the big dives under the big lights.
Absolutely. So just for our viewers at home, we have athletes from Ohio State, Stanford, Miami, Purdue alumni. We have also a bunch of Indiana divers, and then a Texas A&M diver that I think is important to tell our viewers. So Alan, who is actually in second place right now after the prelims, he actually qualified for this meet on Monday. He was one of the only people to make it through the pre-qualifying event, and now he is in second place. Incredible that athlete can do that, and he's been here a long time. And he is only a sophomore, I believe, at Texas A&M. And he's doing some awesome dives. So I think we're going to have some good stories. I think the other person that's fun to speak about that I had actually mentioned to Cliff beforehand is Jack Ryan from Stanford. He's going to be going second tonight, meaning he actually was in the next to last spot before they cut out the other competitors. He has been on fire this week, and he was just a little bit off in the prelim. So I think these men are going to put on a show this evening. What do you think, Cliff?
Yeah. I think that it's going to be a great set of dives, and we'll see who can put together the whole list. Consistency is going to be really important. Hitting all 6 dives and making sure that they are holding up under the pressure. This is going to be a pressure competition going into finals here.
Absolutely. You can probably see our men are warming up right now. Just getting an extra bounce or 2 in before we get this event rolling here. As you'll be able to see on the scoreboard with the leaderboard, there are some scores that carried over from the prelims. So they will compete backwards in order to finish. So the last person in will be the first person to go, and our leader, Andrew Capobianco, will be our final diver of the evening in each round. Anything that surprised you from the prelims and how you see the order right now?
Well, these are all really great divers. I was expecting to see Lyle a little bit higher. And so one thing that I've seen in a lot of these big meets is that some of the really good divers, they don't really come out until finals. So I'm excited to see if there's any big movement. Another person who I thought would be a little bit higher would be Greg. I thought he would be right up there as well. So Greg Duncan, a lot of experience, a beautiful diver. So we'll see how this turns out.
Absolutely. And just for our viewers that didn't watch, Greg Duncan and Tyler Downs are actually coming off a gold medal in the men's 3-meter synchronized. They had an awesome evening last night, competing just extremely steady. So we're hoping to see that again and maybe them turn it up just a bit and kind of hit those dives for maybe in that 80-point range. We talked about it on the women's event for 1 meter. What is that maybe target score for some of these athletes on the 3-meter men's event, Cliff?
Yeah, so the scores, if you're in the 45 to 50 range, that's pretty much a miss for this contest. Going up, this is making it interesting here with the suicide. The good dives are going to be 60 plus, and then 80 dives is going to be a fantastic. 80-point dives are going to be a fantastic score for these divers.
Now, when you sit back and look at these events, we mentioned it earlier as we're about a year and a half away from the next Olympic trials and Olympics. Do you know, I guess, what those scores need to be on the podium potentially at the Olympics?
Yeah, I think you've got to have a consistent list of to get through the Olympics, you've got
Boards are now closed. We are ready to begin the men's 3-meter final. Jacob, 51-52B.
All right, and now we're getting started here with Jacob Fielding from Ohio State, performing 51-52B, a front 2.5 with a full twist.
Nice job. Did you see he was on the corner of the board there?
Yeah, I did see that he was on the corner of the board and kind of shot to the left there. So great composure to be able to keep that together and still perform an excellent dive.
6.5,
58 points.
6.5,
off from where he was in the prelim, but
6.5.
that's okay when you have a takeoff like that. What do you think?
Jack.
Yeah, I agree. I think pulling that
205B.
up again. You know, the first dive is always a little bit nervy. It's just that that's just the way it works. That's why you always want to put a nice, solid, consistent dive on that first dive position.
All right, next up is Jack Ryan from Stanford, which we were starting to talk about a little bit earlier. Jack Ryan during the week has been on fire, so let's see if he can kind of keep that hot streak going and forget about that prelim event.
Yeah, I have not seen Jack dive, so. Wow.
Oh!
Wow.
Energy
There
Hub.
we
We
go.
generate enough
That
clean
does
energy
not
to
look
power
like he's
nearly
going
4
to stay
million
in that
homes every
position. I
year,
think he's gonna move
giving you
up.
the ability to keep
Sevens across, 62 points, so yeah.
That's like we said. He didn't have maybe the best prelim, but it looked like he found
Mohammed,
that flame again. And he's
107
back on fire.
B.
So
We
let's
generate
hope he can
enough
keep that
clean
going.
energy.
Yeah,
Now-
absolutely.
And Mohammed is from the University of Miami, our only international athlete in the final, doing 107B.
You know, it used to be that 107B was a hard dive. Now it's kind of like a standard. You know, it's no longer steak. Now it's just regular, regular chicken here. So
Yeah.
we got pretty simple dive for these guys.
Such a massive hurdle. Oh,
So strong, great rip. That little turn is going to cost him a little bit.
just a little bit hair by on the bottom, but he has such amplitude in his hurdle and his
Scores
takeoff, so much height.
8.5, 8.
Wow,
8,
74.4
7.5,
points,
8,
10 points better.
8.5,
Or excuse me, let me double check
7.5.
that. Yeah, about 6
Luke,
points better than this morning. That's
107C.
incredible. Great job from Mohammed.
Yeah, and we were talking about just as before the break that, they're going to need 80 plus points on all their dives for that Olympic spot.
Wow, Luke Forrester.
Yeah.
I think Jacob Seiler said it really well on Monday. Young but not inexperienced. That was an extremely, extremely composed and great dive.
Yeah, so I remember Luke way back in
Scores,
his first regional,
7,
way back at
7.5,
Harvard University,
8.5,
and working with
8.5,
Agnes Miller there.
7,
and so
7,
he's been a
7.5.
tremendous hard
Connor,
worker.
51,
and, just a great young man.
52B.
That's awesome. Now, Luke and Connor, I believe, are our only two club divers. So Luke diving for Rip Fest under John Wingfield, and Connor for TNT diving under Todd Michael there.
Yeah, Todd's a great guy. A lot of high diving experience.
You're not wrong there. I don't know if you'll remember, this is a blast from the past. I remember diving against Zach Nees whenever I was in high school. And man, could that kid
Scores, 7,
Yeah,
7,
one of the best
7,
spinners that we've ever
7,
had at USA.
6.5,
Absolutely.
6.5,
And it looks like Todd
6.5.
might have another one of those kids here in Connor. Just
Clayton,
excellent dive,
107B.
61.5 points. He will not be upset with that. Another Ohio State diver. I feel like our viewers are going to notice a trend with Ohio State and then soon to come our Indiana divers.
Yeah, Ohio State divers, they're always having fun. It doesn't matter where they are, what they're always having fun.
You're right about that. We were talking about it on the deck. I said something just different about Ohio State. And someone goes, they just bring it every day. And I said, that's a great way to describe their
7,
team.
7,
and I think that's a reflection of Justin.
6.5,
Justin's just upbeat,
7,
always excited,
7.5,
loves the
6.5.
sport, has a great passion for it.
Lyle, 107B.
All right. Another Ohio State diver here in Lyle. And Lyle is born and bred, I think, in Ohio. He was there with American Flyers with Mark and now the Harvard coach, Matt O'Neill, I believe, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, great dives from these guys.
Beautiful dive.
Now, what do you want to see from a judge's perspective on these fronts whenever they're spinning?
So I
Scores,
want to see them jump
7,
really high.
7,
They should move into their position smoothly and quickly.
7, 6.5,
And then
7.
On their entries, they should
Tyler,
have control of their body
405B.
as they line up for the water, and then a nice rip entry. No splash, vertical, and holding that form.
Wonderful. So we're actually going to see one of our Tokyo Olympians, Tyler Downs, doing an inward 2.5 tuck, which brings up a great point here, Cliff. For our viewers at home, these inwards and maybe as we go to see these reverses, sometimes they might look a little bit dangerous, but can you walk us through, is this dangerous, and how do they make sure they're not in any danger at all?
Yeah, so one of the great things about our sport is that it is super safe. So when they are doing these inward dives, they're jumping backwards, but the board on every single one of these dives is actually going to push them just a little bit out. It's a little bit different than a trampoline action because the board
Scores,
actually has that
7.5,
pushing
6.5,
very much
8,
away
8,
from the board
7,
in a nice safe position.
7,
So you actually have to work pretty hard to come back and hit the board.
Carson,
Wonderful.
405B.
All right, and Carson Tyler begins our run of Indiana divers for our viewers at home that you're going to start to see. And Carson had a great preliminary round. Again, we're going to see another inward 2.5 pike here from Carson.
Yeah, and when they're with a qualified coach, these dives are very, very safe.
Whew. Great dive there. Looked like he actually pushed back a little. So
Yeah.
I think you mentioned the board's going to push you away. Where is that perfect distance that we talked about previously?
Scores 6.5,
Yeah,
7.
it's a little bit different from every
7,
dive, but
6.5,
generally you're going to be about
7.5
feet to 2.5 feet away from most of your
Greg,
dives.
205
Inwards can actually
B.
travel a little bit closer just because you have control where that dive goes, and so sometimes they'll be a few inches away from the board, but they'll know exactly where that is, and they have complete control. And the judges recognize when the divers have control, and even if they're close, they're going to get this good scores.
Wonderful. Now we have probably our most experienced athlete in the final here in Greg Duncan, a Purdue alumni, like I previously mentioned, coming off a gold medal in the men's synchronized 3-meter. I feel sure you've kind of seen Greg around the junior circuit and senior circuit for a while now, Cliff.
Yeah, that's not the best dive for Greg for his back 2.5. But yeah, he started up at Dominion Dive Club with John Appleman and has come all the way through. And that great foundation that he's built has carried him through. And
Scores 5, 4.
just
4,
a beautiful dive.
4.5.
Yeah.
4.5.
Sad that back 2.5 didn't work
4.5.
out for him. Now.
Yeah, just a little bit slow. It almost looked like
Quinn,
he did everything he could to get as close to
51,
vertical.
54B.
All right, now we have another IU diver, Indiana University out there in Bloomington, and this was a 71-point dive from Quinn earlier, so we're really hoping we can see that replicated here. Oh,
Yeah, that's not going to have any problem getting to 71 points.
yeah, I think he's going to be very happy with that one.
That's a fantastic dive.
Now, next up, as we get these scores in for
Scores
Quinn,
7,
71-4,
7,
exactly
7,
like we thought there from
7,
Cliff. Great prediction.
6.5.
Looks like you've been doing this for a minute.
7.5.
Next up is kind of our, I think
Allen,
our underdog in this event.
107B.
Alan, like I said, he just qualified for this meet on Monday, so we're going to see him kind of put these dives down and perform as the best he can. He did great in prelims to be in second now. Just a little off on that entry, but I really liked the takeoff and the distancing from the board. What do you think, Cliff?
Yeah, I agree. He's got a great takeoff, and the pike is beautiful. He's right into his leg
Scores
there. You can
7,
see there's no space in
6.5,
between his body and his legs. And
7, 6.5, 6,
spinning well.
6.5.
I think I see
Andrew,
the divers
51,
holding back a little bit.
54B.
I feel like they're trying to hold that adrenaline down, and maybe they're just not quite as aggressive as they could be.
All right, and our leader after the preliminary, Andrew Capobianco, another Tokyo Olympian. This was a 69.7 dive, 69.7 point dive for him in the prelims. Let's see if he can do it here. Beautiful dive from Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew's always been a great ripper, so that means he's able to get in those entries super clean. He was on the corner of the board as well.
Yeah, and he kind of kept his
Scores
composure there, rode
8,
the board, and that
7.5,
twisting position was beautiful. And there's
8.5,
one of those
8,
79, just
7.5,
0.1 short
8,
of those
7.5.
8-point dives that you said these guys are searching for. So great start there for Andrew. And we're going to start back up here. We're actually going to be on a commercial break. So we're on camera with you guys. So Cliff, why don't you talk to our viewers just about the facility here at West
We're
Virginia
ready to begin
and the
round
people that are
2.
running it.
Yeah, so this
Jacob,
facility was modeled after
109C.
the pool at Tennessee. It's a kind of a mirror image of the Tennessee pool. They've got fantastic platforms. They're super wide. Divers love to have wide platforms. It just makes them feel more comfortable, more area to work when they're doing their runs and their takeoffs. Springboard setup is really nice on the cement stands.
Looks like that might have been just a little bit short of vertical for Jacob there, but that is a huge dive to see at this event.
Sure, the 109s, that's kind of the gold, the
Scores,
holy grail
5.5,
of the diving
5.5,
currently.
6,
you can hit that 109
4.5,
and then you're
5.5,
in
5.5.
a serious advantage.
I mean,
Jack,
even look, if you see the scores,
107B.
he's kind of in that like okay to good range with 5.5s, and you still get 63 points. That's a pretty good miss, in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's the dive that they've got to compete with. They should be putting this dive in their list so they get comfortable with it in competition, because at Olympic trials and the Olympic Games, everyone will have a 109.
Oh, as Jacob Seiler would say, that was a spicy entry. And Jack looks like he's kind of found that groove again.
Scores
So great
7,
job.
6.5.
Yeah, that was pretty
8,
groovy. That was
7.5,
excellent.
6.5, 7, 7.
And next up we have Mohammed. We're going to see
Mohammed,
that front 2.5
51,
with 2 twists.
54
This was
B.
a 71.4 dive, so strong dive. He was actually the highest scoring diver in this second round in the prelim. So let's see if he can kind of replicate that.
This is one of those dives that can be competed very consistently just because there's a lot of room for you to make adjustments throughout the dive. So
He jumped
so high.
So high. Oh.
Yeah, just so high.
You'll hear Cliff and I's reactions, and it's just because these young men are just
Scores
jumping out of the
6.5,
building.
5.5.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to see on a smaller
7,
screen. So
6,
when you're
6.5,
here, we're on
6.
the third level, and
Loop
they are jumping
205
right up
C.
to right in front of us. It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
And now we're going to see one of our junior divers, Luke Forster from Ripfest, doing a back 2.5 tuck, so a little bit simpler. So what are you hoping to see here when you see these simpler dives done by these younger athletes?
Yeah, with these low DD dives, they have to be right on. They have to be, and that's one of the good things about Luke, is that
He was just a hair short.
yeah, just a hair short. He is very, very solid with these easier dives. Not a lot of room to miss, so you're going to see these scores a little bit lower.
Scores 6,
And his final
5,
total just hit
6.5,
50.
6.5.
Still be happy with that. He only
6,
scored 44.8 points in the
5.5.
prelim, so that's an improvement. So is that something
Connor,
to focus on as a coach?
51,
Maybe just when you get to the
54
final, hey, let's do better than we did earlier?
Yeah, that's obviously one of the things that you can circle as a success point as you move through these competitions. Let's try and get a little bit better on each one, and that is going to be something that we count as a big positive.
Great dive from
Yeah.
Connor there. Wow.
I did not think that was going to go in the water as straight as it did. He really pulled that down and through the water with a nice
Total
rip. Didn't have a lot of room to maneuver at the end,
6.5,
but
6,
did a
7,
great job pulling that down into a rip.
6.5,
Snuck that one in
6.5,
there.
6.
All right, next up, we're going to
Clayton,
start that run
51,
of Ohio State
52
divers that we
B.
mentioned earlier with Clayton Chaplin. And he's going to do front 2.5 with 1 twist. So same dive as Connor, but with 1 less twist than before.
So a lot of minor things that he made a lot of changes in there. It was a little bit over the end of the board, and I thought it was going to fall out, but he did a good job controlling that, pulling it in. And but with that adjustment, he lost a little bit of his somersault.
7,
So you know,
6.5,
Cliff, you're talking
7.5,
about these little tiny
6.5,
adjustments these divers
7.
have to make in, fractions of a
Lyle,
second. How on earth
307
did they get
C.
to the point where they can make these adjustments?
So this is just repetition, being able to do these skills hundreds and even thousands of times at a dryland facility.
Wow! I think we might see an 80-pointer there from Mr. Yost.
Yeah.
And for our viewers at home, just to understand Lyle's kind of
Scores
crazy.
8,
Wow,
7.5,
85 points. That is the highest scoring dive of the evening so far. Great job from Lyle. But like I was saying,
Tyler, 107
so you can see on the
B.
scoreboard for our viewers, it says DD 3.1. So for reference, in the warm up for this event, Lyle Yost did a front 4.5 pike, just kind of a warm up, which has a degree of difficulty of 4.2, which is insane. And now Tyler Downs.
Yeah, just another example of how they just come in and they have fun. They do crazy dives and they love it.
Beautiful dive by Tyler. And I think that word describes Tyler pretty well. Beautiful diver.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful diver. You know, there's not any
Scores,
motion that's wasted
8,
on his dives.
8.5,
Everything is
8,
going towards
7,
the end product of being
7.5,
a smooth,
7.5,
high,
7.5.
and controlled dive.
So
Carson,
for some of these divers, we're going to see
107
Carson Tyler,
B.
an Indiana diver. We're going to see the exact same dive. What are some of the steps they need to take to maybe be more competitive on an international level for some of these younger divers that want to develop and be like Andrew and Tyler?
Well, you know what? They're already doing these dives at a pretty high level. Now it's time to step up and do the additional somersaults. Now, I say that like it's easy. Some of these dives are 2 and 3 year training processes to be able to get them into a competitive state. Sometimes I think the DD scale is a little bit off where, some of
Scores
these,
5.5,
it's
6.5,
not just a
7,
few tenths higher.
6.5,
It
7,
should be
6.5,
probably
6
3
and a
or 4
half.
points higher.
Right.
Greg, 107 B.
All All right, we're going to see the exact same dive. So Tyler kind of set that standard on this 107. We're going to see if Greg can match that.
Yeah, I really hope Greg comes back from that first round.
And boy, did he.
Wow. Wow.
Talk about a short-term memory for getting that first dive.
Yeah, it looked like he had his radar on for that lineup because there was
Scores
absolutely
8,
no
7.5,
splash on that.
8.
So I do have to give away a little
7.5,
secret here.
7.5,
So yesterday,
8.
so for the viewers
Quinn,
at home, you have to understand Carson
205B.
Tyler previously just dove. He did an incredible dive on Monday, and Drew Johansson, his coach, turned, looked at us, goes, "What happened? I missed it." And I didn't get the joke. I mean, I understood. I thought he actually missed it, but apparently that is old paying homage to Hobie Billingsley. That Hobie used to see a dive that was just disappeared, and he would always say, "I missed it. What happened?"
That's really funny, and one of many stories about Hobie and his unique personality and his amazing contribution to diving.
Wow, these IU divers are putting on a show this evening. This was a 45-point dive for Quinn. He's going to be way happier with this one.
Scores 7, 6.5, 6.5,
60
7.5,
points, another 15 points from prelims.
6.5, 5.5. Allen, 51-54B.
All right, Alan doing front 2.5 with 2 twists here. What goes into learning how you do 2.5 somersaults when you're doing 2.5 twists, Cliff?
Well, you know, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. There's a lot of pieces that go into it. The good thing is that all these pieces are fairly standard.
Scores
moving into that
8,
twist action,
8,
moving into the
7.5,
front connection,
8.5, 7.5,
hiking down
7.5,
into that entry. Those are all
7.5.
pretty standard. So now we're just talking
Andrew,
about
407
adding additional
C.
strength and then learning the skill so that you know where you are when you finish that. And so, the kinesthetic awareness that these divers have is pretty extraordinary.
All right, now our leader, Andrew, is going to do a 407 inward 3.5. This would be another one of those staples that we typically see in the Olympics, correct, Cliff?
Yeah, the inward 3.5 has been there for a while. It's not a extraordinarily difficult dive.
And he made it look easy.
Yes, absolutely. One problem divers have with this inward 3.5 is that sometimes if the head position moves a little bit, the entry becomes very difficult to see because it spins by very quickly.
8.5,
see some nines on the board.
9,
86 points.
8.5, 8,
Yeah, and
9.
that was definitely worth it. High, fast, grip entry, smooth and clean through the whole thing.
Awesome. So, Cliff, you are heavily involved with the PDCA. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what that PDCA is?
Yeah, the Professional Diving Coaches
Ready to begin
Association in the
round
United States.
3.
That is where we support
Jacob,
coaches
205B.
in helping them get better in all aspects of their diving. So there's 5 areas of diving. There is coaches, facilities, insurance, marketing, and competition. And we help coaches progress on every one of those levels. So wow is right.
Wow. It looked like when he came out of that dive, it looked like he got a little bit loose, but almost as an adjustment to get to where he needed to be for that entry.
Yeah, I thought the legs dropped a little bit too.
Scores
I did not think that was going to rip as well as it did, but
7,
it's
6.5,
so
7,
I think
5.5.
might have thought that was a little too
Jack,
loose, but
Yeah.
the rest of those,
51-54B.
obviously, very good dive.
All right, let's see if Jack can keep this hot streak going. Just to go back to the PDCA while Jack's diving, you guys just ran a professional symposium that was virtual, and oh my gosh, was that one of the most informational weekends that I've seen in a long time for our sport.
Well, yeah, it was a great event set up by Chris Sukas, our symposium director, and we brought in the best and the biggest names in diving.
Scores
and it was
5,
extremely helpful.
5,
I think I was like you in a lot of those, just my jaw
5.5,
dropping.
Yeah.
4.
John Appleman gave
Mohammed,
just a
305B.
masterclass on how to set up your program, and John Wingfield on how to do your periodization for your program,
Yeah.
and just so many great views and perspectives.
I think my favorite part was I had a wedding that weekend, and I was texting you saying, I'm going to watch these later, and you just sounded like I did, where you're like, this is amazing. It was incredible. So is that something we can maybe expect annually, maybe more than that? Like, what are your guys' plans with those symposiums? Oh, and a big miss there by Mohammed.
You know what? He gambled on that with that kick out.
Yep.
Wasn't able to quite make it in on the entry, but that was definitely a great display of confidence, pressing out at the water on reverse
2.5.
But
2.5.
so yeah, definitely we're going to be doing that
2,
every year, and we're going to be changing up. We're already into
3.
major plans for next year. We've got
Luke 305C.
We've got a virtual portion, and we're thinking about maybe setting up something live as well. So
Awesome.
we've got a lot of different people working on that, as well as.
Wow, another one of those simpler dives done. Excellent.
Yeah, and again, gambling a little bit with that early kick out.
Scores
but
6.
put it down very
5.5. 7.
50.
7.
So with these low
6,
DD, would they be happy?
5.5,
Is Luke happy with that
6.
50-point dive?
Yeah, you know what?
Connor,
I think so.
205B.
I think Luke, again, he understands what this meet is for. Right? He's not coming here to win. He wants to learn as much as he can about competing at a high level. And so being able to get these dives in and making adjustments and understanding how his competitive strategy works in these big dives, that's what he's getting out of it.
Right. Awesome to hear. It's great to see these athletes getting that experience, like you said. And now, after Connor's dive there, Connor is a young athlete as well. He looks
6,
awesome this evening.
5, 6,
55.
7, 5.5, 6.5.
So next we kind of start
6.5.
that run here of those Ohio State divers again,
Clayton,
starting with Clayton.
51,
And we're going to see that
54B.
front 2.5, 2 twists. So you guys at home can kind of see that's a pretty standard dive we're seeing from a lot of these young men.
Yeah, again, a lot of parts of this dive, but all the puzzle pieces are pretty standard. But making it look extraordinary, that's what their job is here. And Clayton did a great job of making that dive look extraordinary.
Maybe that's a great question for our viewers at home. What's the mark of one of these difficult dives we're watching?
Scores
What
7.5,
makes it
6.5,
How do they get that
7.5, 6.
Yeah, you know,
6.5, 6.5.
We're not going to see very many 9s
Lyle,
or 10s from this panel. I think that
405B.
it's going to be hard. They've got a really high standard for judging this. So I mean, exceptional height is what they're looking for. They're looking for real beauty in the air and complete control of the dive and a splash that's completely vertical and no wavering. You know, that was a great dive.
I think that's a great example there. Lyle made that dive look pretty easy. It did look like he had to kind of muscle some of that to get around, but he got it around, and he is going to be very happy with 69 points on that dive.
8.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly
7.5,
right.
8.
Making a dive look easy.
Tyler,
That's what they're looking for as well. They're looking
54B.
for effortless action in an extremely difficult skill.
You know, some of these athletes, Cliff, it's a great question to ask you with being around the junior scene for so long and just the sport. You know, were all of these athletes always this talented, or did it take some time and development?
No, you know, absolutely not. I've seen a lot of these athletes start off with very basic dives, you know, doing their front 1.5s and back dives, which are short and broken, and and then working their way all the way up to these back 2.5s and back 3.5s.
7.5,
Incredible.
7.5, 7.
76.5 points there from Tyler.
Carson,
Great dive.
51,
You know, that's one of the great things about
54B.
working in junior and developmental is that, you know, anybody who walks through your door, they could be the next one. They could be the next one who's a national champion, an Olympic competitor.
Well, I think that's probably what makes you such a great coach, is you see that potential in all of your athletes, Cliff.
You know, I really do. And so they walk in the door, and I've seen some of my divers. That was another great dive. This is just
This
fantastic.
is a show.
Yeah, it's hard to keep on talking, but
Yeah.
they just want to watch it. I've had some divers who walk in
Scores,
and they are
7,
they
6.5,
are timid,
6.5,
they're scared of
6.5,
getting up on the diving
7,
board, and
7,
they don't want to do some
7.
of these dives, and they turn out to be
Greg,
fantastic divers,
51,
earning scholarships
54B.
from major universities and diving at the national and NCAA finals. So it is really fun to see all the progress that can happen, and you know what, all the unseen benefits of the confidence and the better grades at school and the discipline, all those things you learn from diving.
Great
Hard work.
dive.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm so glad Greg looks like he's just coming around and that's going to really improve his score too.
That was incredible.
Scores 7,
Great
6
job
and a
from
half,
Greg.
7 and a
Like
half,
Cliff said, I
7,
think it's
7
really
and a half,
important to mention
7
for
and
a
a
lot of
half,
these athletes.
8.
Pretty much every athlete here, maybe
Quinn,
outside of Greg. I do not know if
307
Greg is in
C.
graduate school at Purdue or anywhere, but all of these athletes potentially either just finished finals or maybe had to take a break from school, or there are even some athletes on the pool deck that are taking finals this week virtually. So to be able to balance that has to be quite a challenge. How do you as a coach kind of help manage that?
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we talk about how I had to take a break and watch it. It was so good on the takeoff.
Yeah.
But making sure that they understand that diving is only one piece of their life, and they've got to have everything else in order for everything to work. They've got to have their schoolwork in order. They've got to be nice and good people with their family and with their friends.
Ellen,
And
51,
then
56,
everything works and they're able to
B.
compete and dive at a high level. If things are broken in the other areas of their life, they're not going to be a good diver. And so building up that consistency is very important for our club.
All right, big dive here, everybody. Oh, just a little bit off. Looked like he rushed off the board there. Didn't get as much height as he needed.
Yeah, I thought he still had a chance even after that low takeoff, though. A little bit more hard dig on that.
Scores
and that would have been there.
3 and a half,
Just for
4
our
and a
viewers at
half,
home, that is
3 and a half,
one of the
4,
hardest dives you're going to see in men's diving right now. Front 2.5 with
4
3
and a half.
twists.
Sure. And we talk about it like it's just another
Andrew,
dive. It is
307
extraordinarily difficult.
All right, Andrew with a 307 here. But like you said, Cliff, just going back to it real quick, grades are so important for these athletes. I was just mentioning to Cliff, I promised my athletes if they did well, I'd give them a little shout out. I just found out all my athletes were well over a 3.5, it looks like. So just really proud of them just to be able to handle that. And Andrew, wow, incredible.
Yeah. On Andrew's reverse 3.5, it looks like the reverse 3.5 is just like him walking down the road.
6 and a
It's
half, 8,
so
8,
consistent and
8,
easy for him.
8 and a half, 7 and a half.
Because he was actually a little bit off in the prelim, actually, believe it or not. I don't know if you can call Andrew.
Earn your degree online through West Virginia University. With more than 50 years of distance learning and curriculums that engage students from around the world, our pride runs deep. Explore your program options or dive right into your program of choice by visiting online.wvu.edu. It's true, country roads will always take us home, but they also unite us wherever we may be. Become an online mountaineer. Let's go.
Dive Live, now available at the Apple and the Google Store. Allows divers to enter their dive sheets, everything they need on the phone, including add video to their dive sheets. Great for recruiting. For coaches, there is no easier way to run a diving contest.
Our country roads lead to new beginnings, with new opportunities around each mountain bend. Here, we don't just pride ourselves on being the best. We commit to it, designing world-class facilities with premier resources, backed by our communities who are determined to aid in our success. Together, we'll reach new heights. We welcome you to the place where you belong.
We are ready to begin round 4.
All right, everybody, we are back.
Jacob,
Round 4, so we're just starting the
307C.
second half of this here. What are you looking forward to the second half of this event here, Cliff?
Well, this is the time where people put, kind of their less experienced, they're not their favorite dives, put them in the middle, kind of tuck them away. So we'll see if people can continue to be consistent.
Oh, wow, he was on the corner.
He was.
Wow,
He was on the
to
corner.
get that far was impressive.
Yeah.
So walk our
now
viewers.
that's the second dive he's been on the corner.
Scores.
You're right. Walk our viewers through what is going through a diver's head when they're on the corner that much.
3.5.
Yeah, so
3.5.
I mean, as you jump
Jack,
into the air, you know
407
exactly that
C.
dive's not going to be where you want it to be. So you just go into kind of salvage mode and see what you can get out of it. You're thinking, okay, I'm off to the side. I've got to make 3 or 4 adjustments, and but it all happens automatically. You know, you've been on everybody's been on the corner before.
Yep.
They just know, okay, I've got to make some really quick changes and try to pull it back in line and adjust for whatever loss of height I have.
Just a little bit short of vertical there for Jack.
Yeah, a good start. But again, that entry comes up so fast on the inward 3.5.
Scores.
You're coming
5,
right by
4.5.
the board as you
5.5,
spin around, so you
6,
can't see the water
5.5,
until the very last
6,
second.
5.
And now, I don't know if our viewers at home can see,
Mohammed,
but Jack has a pretty wide tuck there.
205B.
You know, what are you looking for as a judge? Is that something they'll take points away, or is that something they notice?
So I think the vast majority of these split tucks are not visible from the judge's perspective, from the side. If you can see it, then it is a deduction, and they will take it. But it is very, very difficult to see, especially when they're spinning so quickly.
Right.
You know, I remember Cynthia Potter talking about how toes were overlapped in a twist. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way anybody can see that toe overlap in a twist. There's no way.
Right.
And and so in the slow-mo, sure. But
And Mohammed just a little
Scores.
bit past vertical
6,
there. That could have just
5,
maybe been an overcorrection
5,
since he
6.5,
did do
5.5,
reverse and he switched it back. So that's something they could factor
4.
in there.
yeah, you know, that's
Luke,
hard to say. You know, with a 10-minute break in between these rounds, or between divers as they go through the rounds, then you know, the change of direction, I'm not sure how much difference it makes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a great reverse twister. Great reverse twister from Luke.
Beautiful. Doesn't carry a lot of degree of difficulty, so he really needs to hit
Scores.
it. He did.
8.5, 8,
Beautiful.
9,
60 points on a 2.5
7.5,
degree of difficulty
8,
dive. He's going to be
8,
ecstatic about that. don't you think so?
7.5.
Yeah, I think so. Luke really likes this
Connor,
dive. He loves
107B.
doing it, and he loves drilling the bottom. He knows where it is. So he's pretty happy with that, I'm sure.
All right, let's see if Connor can put this 107 down for 60 plus like we'd like to see. And he did this for, let's see here, 60.45 in the prelim. I think he's going to be happy with that. I think it might be 60 plus.
It's a solid dive. The hands were a little bit off for that entry, so it's not quite the rip that he wants, but still, very solid dive. I'm sure he's going to get
Scores. 5.5, 4, 5.5,
really didn't like
6.5, 7, 7,
range in
5.5.
there from 4 to 7.
Clayton,
So,
I
you know,
wonder if they saw.
205B.
Do you think they saw a break with the knees?
I don't know. We couldn't see it from up here. Maybe that's possible. You know, maybe go through that. You know, walk us through why is it that as a viewer we're going to see those scores potentially range from 4 to 6.5, 7?
Yeah. So, you know, these dives happen really fast, and there's very specific positional requirements. So if they're in a pike, those legs have to be completely straight. And if they bend at all, then they're going to get a deduction. One judge might pick that up from one side, and the other one from the other side might not.
That was a great dive there from Clayton.
Scores.
these Ohio State boys are putting on a show this evening.
7.5,
points.
7, 7, 7.
But you know,
7.
and so you'll see that
Lyle, 51,
that judging
54,
right there,
B.
very, very consistent. So got a really great set of judges with a lot of experience. They know what they're watching, and so a lot of times things are just not visible on one side and visible on the other.
Right. Now let's see this double twisting 2.5 here from Lyle. Great dive. A little off on that entry from what we're used to seeing from Lyle.
Yeah, a little bit off, a little bit short, and
Scores 6.5, 6, 6.5.
you know, it's surprising
6.5,
too because he has such good
5,
control over it.
5.5,
It just looks
6.
so smooth.
Yeah.
Tyler, 205B.
All right, we're going to see one of the easier dives from Tyler Downs here for his list, a back 2.5 pike. Usually he makes this look absolutely beautiful and effortless.
Yeah, he really does. And one of the great advantages that Tyler has is that he's able to move into his pike, and there is no air in that pike at all. So there's complete closure. His face is in his legs.
Oh, he did a great job saving that as best he could there, I think.
Yeah. And so, I think we're seeing the divers being maybe just a little bit conservative.
Scores 7,
and
6.5, 7.
holding on to those plates just a little longer than they need to, or coming out a little earlier than they need to. So,
Carson,
You know, we
205
talked a
B.
little bit about balance in terms of academics, social life, personal life, and then athletics. How much are these athletes training during the week, Cliff, during the typical school year?
you know, I think there's a pretty good range in there. These Division I athletes are going to be training about 20 hours a week.
Wow.
That was awesome.
Oh, Carson Tyler can get in the water at a world-class level, it seems.
Yeah, he really can. I mean, there's absolutely no splash coming out of those dives.
Scores 7.5, 7, 7.5.
Hand action and a great grip on the water with even a great sound. You know, and those little details are getting judged.
Greg,
You know, that even the sound of the water, they're
53-37
judging
D.
that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's just a quick little aside from Max Weinrich, who joined me last night. We were talking a little bit about just their practices and this murderer's row of men divers that IU has. And he brought up Carson, and he said sometimes Carson will just be really short of vertical, but he is so fast with, like you mentioned, that hand action, getting his hands through, that sometimes he'll figure out how to disappear even when he shouldn't. Beautiful reverse twist. It looks like he lost those feet a little bit in the air.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that might be visible up here, and we'll see how the judges respond. We'll see what they think of that.
Scores
that little break.
7, 6, 7,
73
7.5,
points. They're gonna be
7,
happy with that one.
7.5.
Yeah, so that 6
7.
obviously didn't like that little break, and again, I think
Quinn,
that shows that the weighting, you know,
51-56
the rest of the dive
B.
was so good. Just that little break depends on how much you're going to weight that. I think that would be 8s all across if that was foot together.
Yep, absolutely. And here's one of these humongous Olympic caliber dives, a 3.9 front 2.5 with 3 twists from Quinn. Just a little bit short. Just kind of looks like he wants to get that going a little bit early, kind of stomping the board.
Yeah, you know, a little bit of stomp, a little bit early, just rushing through a couple different parts of that, and not quite able to finish it. But the major components were there. The twist was straight. The somersault was moving enough to make that dive around.
Allen, 307C.
All right, 307 here from Allen from Texas A&M. Man, I'll tell you what, last year I remember watching Division I Nationals, and Curtis Matthews won the 1 meter and 3 meter. He was incredible. And I feel like there had to be a lot of coaches around the country that were extremely excited that Curtis graduated, and yet Jay has another one of these crazy good divers here.
Yeah, again, going back to Jay and his ability to just pull out extraordinary performances from his divers.
Scores 7, 6.5, 7.5, 7.5,
71 points
7,
from Allen. Great
6.5, 6.5. Andrew, 207C.
All right, now this is actually a dive that Andrew was doing last year at Olympic trials and decided to shift away from that 205B a little easier and go to this harder dive. Why might he want to do that, Cliff?
Well, I think he's looking to get experience on this big dive, you know. He's only one of he's the only one doing back 3.5 in this competition.
Yeah.
So getting this dive to be in great shape for Olympic trials and the Olympic Games is going to be critical.
Oh, and it looked like he had a great takeoff there. He just missed it there. Why would he miss that?
Yeah, you know, this dive, again, there's so many parts on that kick out. The kick look reach sequence
Scores
has to happen
3.5,
almost before
3.5,
you see the board.
3.5,
So
3.5,
it's just
3.5,
not only can't you see the water for the kick out, but you can't see the board. So you're really pretty blind, and it has to be just lightning fast reaction to be able to make that work for the entry.
Absolutely, and I think for our viewers at home, it's really important to know there aren't a lot of divers in the world that can do that dive. So it is that challenging of a dive. So for him to do that is just incredible. So as we kind of go into the back 2 rounds
Jacob,
here, you know, what do you want to see
405B.
from an athlete in these last 2 rounds, depending where they're at? Does that matter?
Yeah, you know what? I want to see momentum. I want to see momentum. I want to see improvement, more aggressive performance as they move through. Now the nerves are gone. They're in these rounds. They're in their pattern. They should be going after the dives as far as strength on the takeoff, and absolute control for the lineups and entries.
Scores.
Looked at a little bit
5.5,
shifted off
6,
board, almost like something
4.5,
goofy happened on the
6,
takeoff. What can happen on those
7,
inward takeoffs?
6.5, 7.
Yeah, so ankle flexibility is a big deal
Jack,
on these back takeoffs.
307
So if
C.
the ankles tighten up at the wrong spot, that's going to shift your body weight and make it harder to get the jump in the right spot. So, and tightening up the ankles or letting those ankles fall too far back, either one of those is going to make the balance shift on that dive.
Wonderful. All right, Jack. Oh, man. I thought he was going to put that thing down. That was a great setup.
It was fantastic. All the things were there and just not quite moving into that kick lift reach and making the adjustment for the entry. Everything was there.
4, 3.5, 4.
I'll tell you what, we need to give a shout out. There were a lot of great performances in the prelim.
Mohammed,
the only other person that competed that 207
C.
was actually, his name was Evan Moretti. Dives up, I believe, up in New York, right?
Yeah, Evan is a New York boy. We love Evan.
Something about the New York and Indiana states seem to put out good divers, almost like it has something to do with the coaches in those areas, I think.
Well, we've had a lot of experience. We've got a great high school program which develops a lot of our divers. I saw a little turn on that. I'm not sure
I thought so as
if
well.
that's our angle.
Scores 7, 6.
I don't think they saw it if there was.
6.5, 6.
But
6.5.
great dive from Muhammad
6.
there.
Yeah.
Way to come back after a little
Luke,
bit too weaker dives.
405B.
And again, I want to reiterate, we talk about these dives like, oh, you know what, this is an easy. These are all really hard dives.
Absolutely.
They're all really hard dives.
Absolutely. I think if I had to go do this, I think I would just probably fall apart, to be quite honest. Good dive from Luke there.
Yeah, really good dive. Inward 2.5 pike. He's got a beautiful pike position. I don't think his hands were totally there on the entry.
7.5.
The judges seem to like
7,
it.
6.5.
This is a
7.
humongous event here in West Virginia, Morgantown, at this new facility, which I think got opened up in 2019. I could be wrong. Someone will correct me later if I mess that up.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
What goes in to just having an event like this? Because I know you've helped out with some AAU meets here as well, correct?
Yeah. They held AAU Nationals here, and they've had USA Diving Regionals. This is the largest event they've had here. There's a huge amount of preparation that goes in from a lot of different entities. So the USA Diving, of course, is spearheading, and then there is a organizing committee that is run by the city of Morgantown, and of course, Milan Park has a big part in making sure that all the things with the facility are set up, and so there's a lot of moving parts, and I gotta say, Olivia Rosendahl is a magician. She is fantastic.
I couldn't agree more. Just for our viewers at home that aren't able to be here, wow, what an incredible dive by Clayton. Oh, wow.
And that's just a great example of him making it look easy.
Yeah.
An extraordinarily difficult dive.
7.5, 7.5,
And there's
9,
that 9.
8,
Worth every
8.5,
point
8,
of that 9.
9.
Yeah, I think just jumping back real quick, we're going to have a huge dive here, so I will be quiet as soon as he gets ready to start. But Olivia is running around the pool deck, going crazy, making sure everybody's happy, making sure that this meet is running perfect, and she is incredible. And she is an employee there at USA Diving. She's what everybody wishes they had as an employee.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible.
And that is what we were looking for. Incredible dive with
Scores,
absolutely
5.5,
amazing
6,
smooth dive.
5.5,
Extraordinarily
5.5,
difficult, made it look
6.5.
easy.
Yeah, just a little bit short of vertical.
Tyler,
that's where those deductions came from.
307C.
Everything else looked pretty tight, pretty together, and pretty sharp.
I've got a feeling that dive is going to be a serious point dive for him at NCAAs.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that statement wholeheartedly. All right, now we see this reverse 3.5, which Tyler was able to destroy at Olympic trials. Let's see if we can mimic that performance. Wow, just a touch short of vertical, but he is going to be happy with that.
Yeah, and again, just extraordinary mechanics. His movement patterns are just so solid. His head stays completely steady.
6.5,
As he brings his body
7,
into that tuck
7.5,
position,
8,
he's able to control his upper body
7,
and just be able
7,
to spins so quickly under such
Carson,
great control.
We're gonna get to
307
see two
C.
more of those 307. So this is great. I think Cliff actually touched on a little bit earlier. We're going to get to compare and kind of see what looks better. Why is that beneficial for these judges to get to compare?
Yeah, well, when they're right next to each other, then you got this mental image of what the dive looks like. And if it's just a little bit better in any couple areas, you can go a little higher. If it's a little bit worse, you can drop a little bit of your score.
That was absolutely incredible. He probably won't be super stoked, but with where he was at on that diving board, that was incredible to get to where he did.
You know, and I think we're seeing that again and again where, you know, these hurdles
Scores,
now are so high
5.5,
that they
5,
are very, very
6.5,
difficult to line up
5,
exactly. The hurdle action with the
6.
board, and
Greg,
so
307
being able to recover
C.
from a bad hurdle is such a vital skill.
I think it's important. You know, why is that hurdle so difficult to master, Cliff?
So, you know, you think that this board is pretty basic, just a big piece of metal, but it's actually pretty complex. You know, we talk about the fulcrum in the center, but this is actually a 2 fulcrum machine. So you've got the fulcrum in the middle, and then there's also a movable joint in the back, and that causes the board to decrease in size as it depresses. And then
Just a
another
touch
great
short.
dive. Yeah, so I'm thinking the head position on that was a little, I'm not at a great angle, but I'm thinking the head was a little bit low on the entry to be able to make that go into the correct entry pattern.
Scores 5, 4.5.
But when that
3.5,
board goes up in the air,
4,
if you slow it down in slow
4.5,
motion,
4,
it is like
4.5.
a fish wiggling in the air.
Quinn,
It is
407
crazy
C.
unstable. And so being able to guide that board down back onto the center fulcrum and being able to push it down, still adjusting for that 2 fulcrum action, is extraordinarily difficult. And that's why you'll see a lot of the young divers perform very well on platform, but don't quite have the weight or the timing to be able to master the springboard.
Now, this is an upgraded dive from prelims. Quinn did 405B in prelims. We're upgrading to 407C. And, man, that was pretty well executed for not doing it this afternoon.
Yeah, a little bit trouble getting into that entry for the rip, but very solid start and a great somersault.
5.5.
Absolutely.
5.5.
It's nice to see these young collegiate and young junior divers doing these difficult dives because that's what they're going to need. Like you keep talking about, they're going to need these come a year and a half from now at Olympic trials and then at Olympics as well.
Yeah, and you know, the world stage is set up for extraordinarily high degree of difficulty. That's what the world stage is right now. It's all 3.5s and front 4.5.
Alan, looked like his head was a little bit up there. It looked a little bit slow rotating. What do you think there, Cliff?
Yeah, I would agree. It's a little bit too slow, and that obviously is not going to make it in the water as
Scores
vertical.
5.5. 5.5.
Important to
4.5,
clarify when we say
5,
slow, that's
6,
because Alan
5.5.
spins
5.
like nothing else on everything else
Andrew,
he does. So when we say that's slow,
51,
it's slow for him,
56B.
and I feel pretty confident that by the time NCAA's rolls around, that's going to be a strength for him.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about extraordinary speeds, you know, and when it's like driving a car when you're used to driving at 120, you go down to 100 miles an hour and we say it's slow, but these dives are incredibly fast.
Another big dive here. Oh, he ripped it, but I saw those legs come apart quite a bit in the middle of that dive.
There was a pretty big leg split on that.
Let's see if the judges are going to take away for that.
They're going to have to give him for the entry,
Scores,
and they're going to have to take a little away.
5.5. 7.
Yep, and you see
6.5. 7.
5.5.
7.
I think,
6.5.
looks like those. I don't think those 7s saw the leg split. I think that we had a different angle, and I think the 7s. I don't think they saw that split.
Yeah. So as we go into this final round here, you know, we cannot see
We
the
are ready
leaderboard
to
from where we're
begin the
positioned.
6th and
But
final
we're really
round of
hoping
the
that we can
men's
see some
3
big dives. We're going to
meters.
see some 109s. We're going to see some big dives here. So let's make sure that they can put this show on for you at home. The crowd's getting a little bit amped up here.
Final round.
Yes, sir. Front 2.5, 2 twists. Now, we should typically see a pretty strong dive here in the final round, right, Cliff?
Yeah. And there, Jacob on the corner of the board again.
Yeah, that's 3.
I'm wondering.
3 out of 4.
I'm wondering if there was a board setting that he's
Scores
a little off on.
3.5. 3.5.
Yeah,
4.
just those 3 out of the 4 front
3.5.
takeoffs he did was all on that left
5.
corner there.
Jack, 53,
You know,
37.
I tell my
D.
divers, point your nose where you want to go. So
I like it.
if you're if you're going off to the side, you point your nose over to that other side, and a lot of times you'll drift down in the other way. It's a little bit Mario Kart, but that's the way we try and work it there.
Now Jack crushed this in the prelim for 75 points. Oh, he's going to be happy with that. Almost looked like he got into that a little bit late, a little slow on the start there. What do you think?
Yeah.
Scores 7-7-7.
I thought that it was all in plan, though.
6.5.
It looked like he had it all ready to go, and
Mohammed 109.
I don't know. Did the bottom look rushed to you?
It just was a little bit splashy from how I saw. It could be a little off because, again, for our viewers, we're kind of like up and at an angle, so it's a little bit hard to tell. But here we go with these 109s. We saw one earlier. This is, again, another one of those Olympic dives that's going to need to be done to try to bring home a medal for the U.S., or in Mohammed's case for Egypt. He's from Egypt and dived down there at Miami, so he's crushed some of these this week. So let's see if he can put one down for you viewers. Oh,
wow.
He will be happy with that ending on it.
Yeah.
And I believe Mohammed will probably be also competing platform as well. So great kind of dive there to kind of build some momentum going into the weekend.
Scores
right?
6.5,
absolutely.
5.5, 6, 6.5.
Yeah, so a little range in the scores there, but I was so impressed with how he pushed that board down.
Luke,
he got every single ounce of power out of that board possible.
Absolutely, and here we're going to see one of Luke's harder dives with this inward 3.5 tuck.
Luke's coach, John Wingfield, he is a master at coaching this inward 3.5. So he...
Oh, looks like he might be a master of doing this inward 3.5.
Yeah, and Luke has picked up all the lessons very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, young, but not inexperienced.
Scores 7.5, 8.
Wow, great dive end on for Luke.
8.5,
really great.
7.
I'm glad we're seeing these 8.5s, the divers stepping up and, like we talked about earlier, being a little bit more aggressive. And now that the nerves are gone, really putting in some great dives.
Absolutely. And Connor, our last junior diver here with a 405B. Very good dive. Pretty steady there. What do you think?
I agree. Very solid. I saw a little turn on that takeoff, but it's so minor. I'm not even sure if the judges will be able to see it where they are. But the rest of the dive is very good.
7, 6, 5.5.
Good somersaulting action.
7.
Very clean entry.
Again, we're kind of seeing a pretty
Clayton,
wide range there.
405B.
Range from our judges. So we got a 405B, exact same dive here. So let's see if Clayton can kind of put it down. He crushed his last dive. Let's see if he can keep that momentum rolling like Cliff mentioned earlier.
Drew Johansson prepares all his divers extraordinarily well.
And he hit that one there. Clayton, great job.
Yeah, that lineup action, just beautiful. And talking about the lineup, just the way he moves out of his pike
Scores
into the position where he needs to get into the water.
6.5, 7, 6.5, 8.
Cliff, you kind of talked about John Wingfield and how he is excellent at coaching that inward 3.5. What do you prefer to coach? What's a dive you really love coaching as a coach?
All right, so I hate coaching inwards, and I'll tell you why. So when I was diving, my favorite category was inward, and I had a natural knack for them. And so now I turn around and I step into my coaching role, and I have no idea how I naturally just came up with these good dives on inwards. And so I really had to do my studying to be able to figure out, all right, what's all the components that make up that inward.
That's pretty ironic to hear that was one of your strengths, and as a coach, you're kind of evaluating, like, man, I got to figure this one out.
Scores.
Yeah, it was really strange. Because I thought, okay, this is my best dive. I should be able to coach it really well.
6.5,
because it did come really naturally, I didn't have a good idea of
53-37
what the mechanics were, what the process was to really have an excellent dive. It just kind of came natural to me.
Now, this is typically a beautiful dive Tyler does here, this reverse 3.5 twister.
But all my other categories were terrible, so that means I coached them very well.
Yeah, I think you might be selling yourself short a little bit for our viewers.
Just a little bit short on that.
Yeah, I couldn't see it from where I was sitting here. I was grabbing a drink of water, but it just didn't sound like it normally does from Tyler.
Yeah, quite a bit short. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get more than 5.5.
Scores 4.5, 4.5, 4.5.
Someone really liked it.
7, 4.5, 3.5, 4.5.
That spread surprises me. That surprised me. You know, one of the things about judging
Carson,
theory is that
53,
you want to judge your own
D.
your own perspective on that dive is, but you also don't want to have that panel have that wide range, because that doesn't give a lot of confidence in the judging panel. But so that's the dilemma that every judge sees.
All right, same dive from Carson Tyler here. Oh man, he set that up excellent.
Yeah, I've seen Carson do that dive a lot, and I've never seen him miss it.
That's pretty incredible. That was a great list.
7.5,
I think
7,
he's going to be really, really happy with that.
7,
You know,
6.5,
I agree.
7,
I think that
7.
really, really solid performance.
Greg 407C.
Go ahead, Cliff. Sorry about that.
Just Carson getting back from international diving experience. That international experience makes such a big difference. You know, they come back competing against international divers who are all at the same level. Here at the national level, there's only a handful of kids who are, I say kids, but a handful of men and women who are doing these big dives. And you go to international, and you know what? It's the whole field of people doing those big dives.
Just kind of looked like he was a little short of vertical there.
Yeah, a little bit of short, and that takeoff looked a little cramped to me. So
Scores 5, 4.5.
when I say that, I mean it wasn't
5.5,
complete extension,
6,
so that he can move
5.5,
into a quick rotation. It was a little bit low
Quinn
as he moved
107B.
into that rotation.
All right, and we have Quinn up next here with a 107B. A pretty easy dive for him to end on, pretty standard as you had mentioned. We know he's kind of training that 109, but this week it just wasn't in the cards to do that 109, so we're going to see him do this 107, and I bet we're going to see him do this 107 excellent.
Yeah, you could see that he was a little back on the board. He had no problem with that. I think he could do that from probably around the fulcrum area and still make that dive easy.
Scores 6, 6,
It's pretty
6.5,
crazy sometimes when we're at these meets.
5.5,
some of the
7,
just drills
5.
that these athletes do. They
Allen,
do standing 107C, standing 107B, and it's like that is a hard optional to do with a takeoff, and they're doing it standing as a drill.
True. That's so true. These athletes are incredible. They have just such strength, such awareness. Great technical ability as far as their movement patterns.
Just a miss there by Allen. Just that looked like his head was down a little bit on that entry, causing him to wash over. What do you think, Cliff?
I agree. And
Scores
he's
3,
smiling down
3,
there,
3,
thinking, that was an
2.5,
easy one
4,
that I should have had.
3,
Hey,
3.
it's pretty hard to be upset. It looks like
Andrew,
he's going to finish in
109
7th.
C.
Pretty tough to be upset when you weren't even in the meet on Monday.
True. That's an extraordinary achievement to come out of that meet and get in here and get to finals.
And now this was the highest scoring dive of the entire preliminary event. Andrew was able to put this down for 87.4 points. Let's see if he can up that. Oh boy, I think he might.
All right, so his foot was off the side of the board, and he still just absolutely drills it.
Scores 8.5.
I'll tell you what, the pressure gets on, and Andrew just gets better. It seems whether it's here, whether it's at NCAA, I would guess whether it's at IU just at a practice. I don't think that guy likes losing at anything.
No, he does not. And so that's one of the great things about Andrew is that he loves to win, but I think he hates losing even more.
Finishers.
That's such a great thing to say.
To the medal staging
Cliff,
area.
what are your takeaways from the viewers here as they kind of get the contestants and the award winners to the podium?
Well, I think that it's just a great event to watch and to see what level of diving is going on here in the U.S. We take a look at this, and it's just...
Make sure you stay tuned for the awards, guys. They're going to do the awards, I do believe, for the women's 1 meter and the men's 3 meter. So stay tuned. Those will be happening here shortly. They're collecting the contestants right now. Sorry to interrupt you, Cliff. But
Oh, no.
go.
Just we're seeing these dives that scores 6s and 7s, and I think the judging's extraordinarily tough here. I don't know if they're getting them ready for what's going to happen at international competition, but really tough. And so my takeaway is that you saw a lot of fantastic diving here at a level which is very, very rare, except at the Olympic level. I don't think there's another country other than maybe China that can put together a contest like this at this level.
Absolutely. Just a big shout out to everybody. So let's kind of recap here. Not just this event, but both. I don't really got to talk about what your takeaways were from that women's 1 meter event. We did, I do believe, let's hope I'm not wrong about this, that even though Mia was able to be the champion here at this event, she actually will not finish first, just for our viewers. So because this is a U.S.-based event, they just kind of take those international athletes out of the finish marks. So even though she did win, she will not be the first place finisher. I believe that will be Haley Hernandez. But what are your takeaways from that women's event? What are you looking forward to from those female athletes?
Well, I think there's a ton of potential there. And I think as everybody sees that those 307s and 405s they're able to do them. They're not impossible dives. I think we're going to see them going more and more. It's just like Roger Bannister in the 4-minute mile. Now that everybody sees, hey, you know what? Women can do these and they can do them really well, then I think you're going to see a bunch of divers jumping in and saying, you know what, 305 is a dive I want, and they're going to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even I'm hoping, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, there's some secrets up some of these female athletes' sleeves for the 3 meter event. We've seen some pretty big dives. I think I need to keep you guys waiting until tomorrow to stay tuned for that, and hopefully we'll see those. What athletes are you looking forward to watch for the remainder of the weekend?
Well, of course, Haley is always fun to watch. She's tremendous. I actually haven't taken a look at the start list, so I'm not sure who else is in there. Is Jessica in for 2 meter as well?
She just entered 1 meter, actually. That's the only event she entered.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure who else is in there. So,
no, that's okay.
But I think that women on 3 meters is always a fun event because there is a range of dives that they're going to be doing. So you'll see front 3.5 tucks, you'll see front 3.5 pike, and you'll see back 2.5, reverse 2.5 tuck and pike. And you never know what you're going to see with those twisters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for our viewers here, they're going to go over this with the medal presentation, but they do have the finalists listed up here, and we're just going to try to read through them for you as quick as we can. We're just waiting for the board to reset. We do know in first place is going to be Andrew Capobianco claiming the title, so congratulations to all of these men. Lyle Yost moving all the way up into second. Great job for him. Tyler Downs in third with a steady list. Carson Tyler in fourth there. Clayton Chaplin, Gregory Duncan. We're going to wait for the board to come back around. But again, we're seeing a lot of Indiana divers coached by Drew Johansson. Purdue divers from Adam Soldati, Ohio State divers Justin Socher. So jumping back in here, Allen in 7th, Quinn in 8th, Luke in 9th, Connor in 10th, Jack Ryan in 11th, Muhammad in 12th, and Jacob Fielding bringing up in 13th place. Great job from all these men. Just so you all know, there was, I believe, 41 or 40 competitors this morning. So for these men to make this final, it was no small feat. So big shout out to them. They're going to be jumping to the awards here shortly. As we continue to go here, Cliff, what do you kind of want to leave our viewers with in terms of the thing I like to ask you, because I think you have great answers? If there are parents watching at home, how do they get their kid involved in diving, competitive diving?
Yeah, so competitive diving is a fantastic sport for everyone, and I believe that every kid should have their feet on the Duraflex to see if they're going to like it. I've got a kind of interesting story. I mean, diving saved my life. When I was a young kid, I couldn't find anything that I was really interested in, and I started diving because a friend told me I should check it out. And you know what? My coach taught me about resilience and hard work, and about taking one dive at a time. And those are all the things that have helped me survive. I know, Heath, you know my story. I'm a cancer survivor, and so a long way back from paralysis. But diving has helped me all the way through. And you know what? There's a lot of young kids out there who need a sport, and they need a fun, safe sport with great coaches, and that's what diving has.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a joy. Anytime I get to see Cliff, I just light up. It's always awesome getting to see him. I used to see him a lot more when I was coaching at D3, so I'm sad I don't, but very excited that he was able to join me this evening. So, big thank you. And while we wait for these awards, what other things do you want to chat about with diving while we're waiting here?
Well, I want to say congratulations to you on the Clarion job. You're doing a fantastic job there.
Thank you.
And filling some big shoes. But we know that Clarion program is in great hands with you. So we're really excited to see you there and all the other things that you're doing, and especially with the diving pod. You and Aaron are tremendous, and I love listening to the diving pod every single week. And what a great addition to the sport of diving is the podcast.
Yeah, we're trying, honestly.
We are ready to present the awards.
So they're kicking you down to the awards now, so we will see you guys tomorrow night.
Finals.
Men's platform, women's 3-meter.
Presenting the award tonight, Sean Sikora, County Commissioner. In third place, Mackenzie Crawford. Your silver medalist, Bridget O'Neill. And your 2022 USA Diving Winter National Champion, Haley Hernandez. Let's get another round of applause for these amazing ladies. We are now ready to present the awards for the men's 3-meter springboard. Your bronze medalist, Tyler Downs. Your silver medalist, Lyle Yost. And your 2022 USA Diving Winter National Champion, Andrew Capobianco. Let's give these boys one more last round of applause. I am down here with our girls national champion on 1 meter, Haley Hernandez. Haley, what was the key to victory tonight?
I just really wanted to, go out there, stay really confident, and just really go for my dives. That was, my big goal for myself. I've really been working hard on my 1 meter, so I was just happy to get out there competing again.
And what did it mean to you to come out on top of such a strong field?
It was super, super exciting. There were some great competitors out there, and I was really happy to be challenged by the competition and go out there and do my thing.
And what's in store for the future?
Hopefully just, continue to improve, maybe get some harder dives, and I'm looking forward to working on those.
Awesome. Congratulations. And I'm here with your men's 3 meter national champion, Andrew Capobianco. Andrew, what was the key to victory tonight?
I think kind of just trusting that I remember how to compete. I haven't competed in a while, so just getting out there and kind of remembering again how to compete was really important, and trusting in the training that I did back home.
And with all that degree of difficulty, how nice is it to put a list together like that?
Yeah, it's exciting. We definitely came here trying to throw the big guns because we know that that's what we have to do moving forward, and so it's exciting to just get out there and do it for the first time, all together, and hopefully that's a good starting point.
Awesome. And you mentioned moving forward. What is in store for the future?
Just continuing to do the same dives that we're doing, training hard every day with all the boys back at Indiana. We're really lucky there. We're able to have a great group that's able to push each other every day, so we're really lucky.
Awesome. Congratulations again.
Do you ever stop and think about energy? How we light up our lives, how we power our communities, and where it all comes from. Think about this. At Energy Harbor, we generate enough clean energy to power nearly 4 million homes every single year, lighting up neighborhoods, empowering business, and giving you the ability to choose energy that's safe, reliable, and sustainable every time you flip the switch. Energy Harbor. Live with power.
Dive Live, now available at the Apple and the Google Store. Allows divers to enter their dive sheets, everything they need on the phone, including add video to their dive sheets. Great for recruiting. For coaches, there is no easier way to run a diving contest.
Our country roads lead to new beginnings, with new opportunities around each mountain bend. Here, we don't just pride ourselves on being the best. We commit to it, designing world-class facilities with premier resources, backed by our communities who are determined to aid in our success. Together, we'll reach new heights. We welcome you to the place where you belong.